People have argued about biblical contradictions for centuries.
Its assertions are factually true in all the original autographs. But how can that be if the Bible's full of contradictions, which is what we're told so often?
AI has reconstructed a sermon no human has read in over 1,000 years, and its message terrified the world's top theologians. For centuries, religious scholars have combed through fragmented manuscripts trying to piece together the thoughts, teachings, and sermons of early spiritual leaders. Some texts survived, others were shattered, scattered, or worn beyond recognition by time.
Every Sunday, in every corner of the world, people gather to hear a story. For more than 2,000 years, that story has been told and retold.
Now, with the rise of artificial intelligence, experts are pushing the boundaries of what's possible, attempting to revive voices that have been silent for thousands of years. Stay with us to explore the shocking message that has historians and theologians debating endlessly. Ancient texts, the puzzle of history. Humanity's spiritual history is filled with fragments, missing pages, and incomplete manuscripts. Many ancient texts did not survive in their entirety due to fire, war, decay, or neglect. Some of the most influential sermons, letters, and writings exist only as scattered pieces, leaving gaps in our understanding of early spiritual thought. For centuries, scholars relied on painstaking methods to restore these texts. They compared multiple copies, analyzed linguistic patterns, and made educated guesses based on context. Even the smallest fragment could provide insight into centuries-old traditions. But the process was slow, meticulous, and often frustrating. The advent of artificial intelligence introduced a new method to address this problem. Instead of relying solely on human intuition, AI can process enormous data sets of historical texts, recognize patterns, and suggest plausible reconstructions of missing words or lines. While AI cannot feel or interpret meaning in a spiritual sense, it excels at predicting text patterns based on statistical likelihoods. This technology enables historians to see a more complete picture of lost works. Even with incomplete manuscripts, AI can recreate sentences that align with the style, grammar, and vocabulary of the time. While these reconstructions are never guaranteed to be exact, they bring us closer than ever before to voices long silenced. The potential impact of this technology is immense. Lost sermons, ancient letters, and fragmented writings may all become accessible in new ways, opening doors for research, interpretation, and understanding. Yet, with every reconstruction comes a careful consideration of accuracy and ethics, since these reconstructions can easily be mistaken for historical fact if not handled properly. Christians are unknowingly spreading passages that may not even be original. A digital resurrection. Imagine a fragment of a sermon, faded with age, lines partially erased by centuries of wear. The parchment is brittle, and many words are missing. Scholars have examined such pieces for decades, trying to piece together the full message. They can reconstruct portions from context, but much of the meaning remains a mystery. For centuries, the full sermon could only exist in imagination, as a shadow of what once was. When AI technology was introduced into historical research, a new method became possible. By feeding the machine hundreds of surviving texts from the same era, including sermons, letters, and other spiritual writings, it could analyze patterns in language and structure. The AI could then generate plausible suggestions for the missing parts. This was not copying or guessing at random. It was a guided reconstruction based on extensive historical and linguistic data. The process of reconstruction was meticulous. Scholars first digitized every available fragment, translating them into a format the AI could read. Then, they trained the AI to recognize writing styles, vocabulary, and phrasing typical of the period. The AI proposed multiple versions of missing sentences, which human experts reviewed, compared, and refined. This collaboration between human judgment and machine prediction was critical to creating a text that felt authentic while remaining historically plausible. The AI-generated sermon emerged as a coherent narrative. The lines flowed naturally, with arguments and illustrations that reflected early spiritual teachings. It captured the rhythm and tone of the original as far as could be determined. While it was understood that this was not a perfect recreation, it gave scholars something they had never had before, a nearly complete version of a sermon that had been silent for centuries. This digital resurrection opened a new chapter in historical research. It demonstrated the ability of technology to bridge gaps left by time, war, and decay. The AI did not replace human interpretation, but enhanced it, providing a framework for scholars to explore ideas, themes, and moral lessons that had been lost. For the first time, a voice from the distant past could be read, analyzed, and understood in a way that was impossible with traditional methods alone.
The spread of Christianity wasn't entirely a conscious effort. Warfare and the fall of Jerusalem in AD 70 led to the diaspora of Jewish and Christian communities alike.
Scholars in turmoil. When the AI reconstructed sermon was first presented to scholars, the reaction was immediate and intense. Historians, theologians, and linguistic experts gathered to examine the text, eager to see how the machine had filled in centuries-old gaps. For decades, these scholars had relied on fragments, partial manuscripts, and conjectures to understand the content and meaning of the lost sermon. The AI's reconstruction provided something closer to a complete text, offering clarity that had never been available before. Many scholars felt both awe and apprehension as they read through the document, recognizing the potential significance of what they were seeing. The initial excitement was tempered by careful skepticism. Scholars recognized that the AI had produced a text that appeared consistent with the style and vocabulary of the period, but it remained a reconstruction, not a historical artifact. Questions immediately arose about the reliability of the content. Could a machine-generated sermon truly reflect the intentions, beliefs, and cultural context of its original author? There was agreement that, while the AI offered a valuable tool, human interpretation was essential to ensure the text was analyzed accurately and responsibly. As discussions continued, some scholars emphasized the remarkable precision of the AI-generated content. The sermon flowed naturally, with clear rhetorical structure, consistent theological themes, and coherent moral lessons. It replicated patterns of argumentation, repetition, and illustrative storytelling typical of sermons from that era. This level of coherence was previously unattainable through human reconstruction alone. Scholars began to explore how the AI might have identified missing phrases and predicted them with such accuracy, marveling at the combination of computational power and historical expertise that made the reconstruction possible. At the same time, a portion of the scholarly community expressed concern about over-reliance on technology. The AI's reconstruction, while coherent, could not account for the subtleties of human intention or the deeper spiritual dimensions that shaped the original sermon. Scholars worried that some passages could reflect statistical probability rather than historical truth, potentially introducing interpretations that never existed in the original work. These concerns led to careful discussions about how to present the reconstructed sermon in academic contexts and how to communicate its speculative nature to the public. The AI reconstruction also sparked debate about the boundaries of scholarship. Some historians argued that this approach could redefine research methods for lost texts, creating a new field where machines and human expertise work together. Others cautioned that the seductive coherence of the AI-generated sermon might overshadow careful analysis, creating a perception of authority that was not fully justified. These debates highlighted the tension between innovation and rigorous methodology, showing how emerging technology could challenge traditional frameworks of interpretation and research. Despite the concerns, the AI-generated sermon became a focal point for collaboration. Scholars began to test hypotheses, cross-reference known texts, and evaluate the plausibility of reconstructed passages. The text offered a new lens through which to understand early spiritual teachings, inspiring fresh research questions and potential discoveries. The process underscored the importance of dialogue, peer review, and careful consideration in the integration of technology into historical and theological scholarship. Scholars were navigating a new era where human expertise and artificial intelligence could complement one another while maintaining academic integrity. The sermon emerges. The moment the AI-generated sermon was fully revealed, scholars and historians experienced a mix of anticipation and disbelief. For centuries, the fragments of this sermon had been studied, debated, and theorized over, yet no one had been able to reconstruct its full message. The AI reconstruction provided a nearly complete version with coherent sentences, thematic flow, and logical progression. Reading the text was like hearing a voice from the past brought into the present. The sermon began with reflections on human behavior and moral responsibility. It discussed ethical decision-making and emphasized the importance of personal accountability. These themes were consistent with early spiritual texts, and scholars noted how the reconstructed passages aligned closely with historical context. The AI had identified patterns in surviving writings to fill gaps, creating content that maintained the original tone and style. As the sermon unfolded, it presented vivid examples and illustrative stories. These examples demonstrated practical applications of moral principles, encouraging reflection on everyday choices. Scholars were particularly impressed with the way the AI maintained consistency in style, using phrasing and rhetorical techniques common in early sermons. The text felt coherent, as if it had been composed by a single author with a clear purpose. The structure of the sermon reflected classical rhetorical organization. It opened with guidance and reflection, moved through explanatory examples, and concluded with calls for ethical action. Scholars observed the use of repetition, emphasis, and balanced argumentation, noting that the AI had captured not only content, but also the rhythm and pacing of early sermons. This made the reconstruction feel remarkably authentic. Some passages offered interpretations that were slightly different from surviving texts. While the themes were familiar, the reconstructed sermon introduced subtle variations in emphasis, sometimes highlighting aspects of moral responsibility or communal ethics that had been overlooked in historical records. These differences sparked discussion about what the original author may have intended versus what the AI reconstructed based on statistical patterns. The emergence of the complete sermon marked a significant milestone in historical scholarship. Scholars could now engage with a text that had been inaccessible for centuries. The reconstruction offered new insights, raised questions about interpretation, and provided a foundation for further research into early spiritual teachings. It also demonstrated the potential of AI to complement traditional historical methods in meaningful ways. The message that shocked. The content of the AI reconstructed sermon drew immediate attention for its depth and unexpected elements. While much of the text reflected familiar moral teachings, it included passages that emphasized individual responsibility, ethical decision-making, and the consequences of actions. Scholars noted the emphasis on personal reflection, which added a dimension often absent from surviving works. Several passages challenged conventional interpretations of authority within early spiritual communities. The sermon suggested that followers should engage critically with leadership and question the application of power. These sections were subtle but significant, indicating a perspective that had been minimized or lost in other historical records. Scholars found these elements thought-provoking and worthy of further study. The sermon also incorporated vivid moral scenarios, illustrating abstract principles in practical terms. These examples were designed to encourage listeners to consider the impact of their decisions on others and on the community as a whole. Scholars observed that the AI had reconstructed these passages with attention to context, historical accuracy, and rhetorical effectiveness. Rhetorical techniques in the text included repetition, parallel phrasing, and structured argumentation. These features strengthened the sermon's coherence and helped convey the intended messages. Scholars noted that the AI had successfully replicated the stylistic conventions of the period, producing a text that felt natural and persuasive. The message of the sermon sparked both admiration and caution among scholars. While it demonstrated the capabilities of AI in reconstructing historical texts, it also raised questions about authenticity and accuracy. Researchers debated which parts reflected historical reality and which were likely influenced by the AI's predictive modeling. Ultimately, the sermon's message underscored the power of AI to illuminate lost ideas while highlighting the need for critical scholarly evaluation. It provided a window into past thought, offered new interpretations, and encouraged discussion about how lost texts can be responsibly studied and understood. Historical context of lost texts. The loss of historical texts is often the result of natural decay, human conflict, and deliberate decisions. Ancient manuscripts were fragile, written on materials that deteriorated quickly. Fires, wars, and environmental conditions destroyed countless documents over centuries. Even when texts survived, they were frequently incomplete or damaged, leaving gaps that scholars have struggled to reconstruct. In addition to material loss, historical and social factors shaped what texts survived. Religious councils and leaders decided which writings would be copied, preserved, or disseminated. Some teachings were excluded because they were considered controversial, while others simply did not survive widespread circulation. These factors created a historical record that is incomplete and sometimes biased. Understanding this context is essential for interpreting AI reconstructions. The reconstructed sermon is based on surviving patterns and content, but it cannot restore knowledge that is entirely absent. AI uses statistical models and historical comparisons to propose plausible content, filling gaps in a way that reflects known structures and themes. The AI also considers linguistic and stylistic patterns. It evaluates vocabulary, sentence, structure, and rhetorical devices to generate text that aligns with historical norms. This ensures that reconstructed passages are not only coherent, but also plausible within the cultural and temporal context of the original sermon. Despite these capabilities, reconstruction is an approximation. Scholars recognize that some nuances, local references, or specific intentions of the original author may be lost. The reconstructed sermon represents a probable version informed by historical data, rather than a perfect reproduction of the original text. The value of this approach lies in its ability to illuminate previously inaccessible ideas. By reconstructing missing sections, AI enables scholars to explore ethical principles, rhetorical strategies, and thematic elements that have been partially lost. This contributes to a deeper understanding of the historical, spiritual, and cultural significance of ancient texts. The technology behind the scenes. Artificial intelligence relies on advanced algorithms to analyze and predict patterns in text. In the case of reconstructing the lost sermon, the AI processed large data sets of historical documents, including sermons, letters, and instructional writings. It learned the common structures, vocabulary, and rhetorical techniques used in similar works. The AI then proposed reconstructions for missing sections of the text. These suggestions were based on statistical likelihood, pattern recognition, and historical consistency. Each passage was generated to align with the style, grammar, and themes present in the surviving fragments. The process required careful calibration to ensure accuracy and plausibility. Human oversight was critical throughout the project. Scholars reviewed each proposed passage, assessing whether it fit the historical context and maintained coherence with existing fragments. Iterative refinement ensured that the reconstructed sermon was both credible and useful for research purposes. The AI also helped identify patterns that were not immediately obvious to human scholars. By comparing surviving sermons, it highlighted recurring themes, repeated rhetorical structures, and common linguistic devices. These insights informed both the reconstruction process and broader research into early spiritual texts. While the AI-generated content, human expertise remained the guiding force. Scholars evaluated interpretations, historical plausibility, and theological consistency. The collaboration between machine and human intelligence produced a reconstruction that combined computational analysis with deep historical understanding. The result demonstrated the potential of AI as a research tool. By processing massive amounts of data, predicting missing content, and collaborating with scholars, AI offered a pathway to recover texts that were once considered lost. This technology provides both practical and scholarly opportunities to expand our understanding of historical materials. Ethical concerns in theological AI. Using AI to reconstruct sacred texts raises complex ethical questions. The AI cannot understand the spiritual significance or intentions behind a sermon. Scholars must ensure that the reconstructed content is presented as an informed hypothesis rather than an authoritative source. Transparency is essential. Researchers emphasize the speculative nature of AI reconstructions, clearly labeling generated content and explaining the methods used. This approach prevents misunderstandings and helps maintain academic integrity while allowing the reconstructed sermon to inform research and discussion. Another ethical concern involves public perception. If presented without context, AI-generated reconstructions could be interpreted as original or definitive texts. Scholars worry that readers may assign historical authority to material that is ultimately speculative, creating potential confusion. The reconstruction process also involves responsibility to maintain historical and cultural accuracy. AI can introduce content that reflects statistical patterns but may not correspond to historical reality. Scholars guide the AI output to prevent misrepresentation of theology, cultural practices, or ethical perspectives. Despite these challenges, many scholars recognize the benefits of AI in historical research. When used responsibly, AI enables exploration of previously inaccessible material, generates hypotheses, and supports critical discussion. It can provide valuable insight while remaining grounded in scholarly methodology. Ethical oversight ensures that AI is used as a tool for research and discovery, rather than as a replacement for human interpretation. Scholars remain responsible for evaluating, contextualizing, and communicating findings, maintaining a balance between technological innovation and academic rigor. The intersection of faith and machines. The AI reconstruction of the lost sermon highlights a connection between technology and faith. Faith is rooted in human experience, reflection, and community, while AI operates through analysis of patterns and probabilities. Despite these differences, AI provides scholars with a method to explore historical religious texts that were previously incomplete or lost. For historians and theologians, the technology offers a way to access ideas that were inaccessible due to missing fragments or damaged manuscripts. AI can predict probable wording and structure based on surviving documents, allowing scholars to study sermons, letters, and other texts with greater completeness than ever before. This process expands the scope of research and helps uncover ethical and theological ideas that have not been fully preserved. Some religious communities have approached AI reconstructions with caution. Machines cannot experience belief, devotion, or spiritual understanding, and the reconstructed texts should not be interpreted as authoritative statements of faith. Scholars emphasize that these reconstructions are research tools designed to facilitate historical exploration rather than define doctrine. The AI reconstruction allows for comparative analysis with surviving texts. Scholars can examine recurring patterns, rhetorical structures, and thematic consistency. This comparison provides insight into how spiritual ideas were transmitted, emphasized, and received in early religious communities, giving scholars a deeper understanding of historical teachings. The reconstructed sermon also reveals aspects of ethical instruction, leadership guidance, and community expectations. It presents scenarios for moral decision-making and illustrates the consequences of choices, reflecting how spiritual leaders might have guided their followers. While the AI cannot convey the emotional or spiritual weight of the original delivery, it reconstructs the textual and rhetorical patterns of the period effectively. This intersection of faith and machines demonstrates how technology can enhance historical research. AI extends access to lost ideas while ensuring that interpretation, meaning, and spiritual understanding remain the responsibility of human scholars. It represents a collaboration between human insight and computational analysis, opening new avenues for historical and theological inquiry. Voices from the scholars. The AI reconstructed sermon produced a wide range of reactions from scholars. Many expressed admiration for the coherence, plausibility, and attention to historical detail in the reconstructed text. They recognized the sophistication of the AI in replicating rhetorical patterns and language consistent with early sermons. Other scholars approached the reconstruction with caution. They noted that the AI's output is generated based on statistical likelihood and historical patterns, not direct knowledge of the original author's intentions. This raised questions about the reliability of the reconstruction for historical interpretation and required careful evaluation. Scholars appreciated the collaborative process between human expertise and AI analysis. The AI produced multiple potential reconstructions for missing sections, and scholars reviewed, adjusted, and validated these suggestions. This iterative method ensured that the text was historically plausible while remaining grounded in expert judgment. The reconstructed sermon also prompted discussion about methodology. Some researchers noted that AI could change the standards for studying lost texts, while others emphasized that technology must supplement, not replace, human evaluation. The debate underscored the need for critical thinking and responsible integration of AI in scholarship. Reactions also included consideration of public engagement. Scholars discussed how to present the reconstructed sermon responsibly, ensuring that audiences understand its speculative nature. Transparency about the reconstruction process was essential to prevent misinterpretation or overestimation of its authenticity. Overall, scholars recognized both the potential and limitations of AI in historical research. The reconstructed sermon served as a valuable tool for exploration and discussion, highlighting new opportunities for studying early spiritual texts while maintaining rigorous standards of academic integrity. Can we trust the reconstruction? Trusting an AI reconstructed sermon requires careful consideration. While the text is coherent and aligns with historical patterns, it is not the original document. The AI generates content based on statistical prediction, drawing from surviving texts rather than direct evidence of the sermon's original words. Scholars emphasize transparency. The AI-generated text should be treated as a hypothesis rather than a definitive historical record. This distinction allows researchers to study and interpret the sermon critically while recognizing the speculative aspects of the reconstruction. The coherence and plausibility of the reconstructed text can give the impression of authenticity. Readers may assume that the sermon reflects the original voice accurately, yet some passages are informed more by predictive modeling than historical certainty. Scholars caution against equating AI reconstruction with primary sources. Despite these limitations, the AI reconstruction offers considerable value. It provides insight into probable themes, rhetorical patterns, and moral teachings from the period. Researchers can use it to test hypotheses, compare with existing fragments, and explore ideas that were otherwise inaccessible due to the loss of original manuscripts. Human evaluation is essential to establish trust. Scholars review AI-generated passages for historical and theological plausibility, assess alignment with surviving texts, and provide context for interpretation. This ensures that the reconstructed sermon contributes to research responsibly without misleading audiences. Ultimately, the AI reconstruction represents a combination of historical scholarship, and computational modeling. It does not replace primary sources or human judgment, but enables researchers to explore lost ideas, understand historical perspectives, and expand knowledge of spiritual teachings from the period. What this means for religious studies. The AI reconstructed sermon has important implications for religious studies. It demonstrates that technology can extend scholarly research by allowing the study of texts that were previously lost or incomplete. This provides a way to explore historical theology and ethical instruction in greater depth. Researchers can analyze reconstructed content to identify recurring themes, rhetorical techniques, and moral guidance. This allows scholars to study patterns in early spiritual communication, understand ethical frameworks, and explore how religious communities may have interpreted teachings. The AI-generated sermon becomes a resource for comparative study and historical insight. The project raises questions about methodology in religious studies. Scholars must determine how to integrate AI reconstructions responsibly, maintaining standards for accuracy, plausibility, and historical context. This involves cross-referencing with surviving texts and providing a clear explanation of the speculative nature of AI-generated material. Despite these challenges, the benefits are significant. AI reconstructions allow scholars to test hypotheses, explore ideas that were lost or marginalized, and examine previously inaccessible aspects of religious thought. The technology opens new opportunities for research, teaching, and understanding historical spirituality. The interdisciplinary nature of AI reconstruction encourages collaboration. Historians, theologians, linguists, and computer scientists can work together to ensure the reconstructed content is meaningful, credible, and contextually accurate. This collaboration strengthens the study of historical religious texts and encourages broader engagement with lost material. In conclusion, the AI reconstructed sermon represents both an opportunity and a responsibility. It expands the tools available to religious studies, provides insight into early spiritual teachings, and illustrates how technology can support careful, informed scholarship. The project marks a new chapter in the exploration of historical texts and the study of faith.
The sporadic persecutions faced by these communities made Christian groups very close-knit as they relied on one another for preservation.
Lessons from the ancestors. The AI reconstructed sermon offers insight into the values and priorities of early communities. By examining the text, scholars can better understand how spiritual leaders communicated moral guidance, encouraged ethical behavior, and guided followers in their daily lives. These lessons reflect the lived experience and wisdom of the past. The sermon emphasizes reflection and personal responsibility. It encourages listeners to consider the consequences of their actions and to act with integrity. These teachings reveal the ethical standards and expectations of the communities in which the original sermon circulated, providing a window into cultural norms and social structures. Historical patterns in the sermon illustrate the use of storytelling as a teaching tool. The original author likely relied on examples, parables, and scenarios to make moral principles accessible. The AI successfully replicated this approach, allowing modern readers to see how spiritual lessons were communicated through relatable narratives. The reconstructed sermon also highlights leadership and community guidance. It stresses the importance of ethical decision-making by leaders and the need for followers to engage thoughtfully with authority. These lessons suggest that early communities valued accountability, fairness, and collaboration in both religious and social contexts. Scholars can use the sermon to draw connections between past and present ethical teachings. By analyzing the content, researchers gain insight into enduring moral principles and how they were interpreted over time. This provides context for understanding the evolution of religious thought and ethical guidance across centuries. Ultimately, the AI reconstruction allows modern audiences to engage with the voices of the past. It transforms fragments into a coherent lesson that conveys not only moral instruction, but also the worldview, values, and priorities of early spiritual communities. These lessons help preserve the wisdom of ancestors in ways that were previously inaccessible.
These forced journeys led to the establishment of Judeo-Christian communities around the known world. These groups transported their forms of worship, spiritual studies and insights, and charitable activities as pilgrims.
Why the mystery-solved narrative persists. The idea of solving the mystery of a lost sermon is compelling, even though the AI reconstruction cannot fully replicate the original text. The narrative persists because it offers closure to centuries of speculation. Scholars and the public alike are drawn to the concept of recovering lost knowledge. Part of the appeal lies in the tangible results provided by technology. AI can produce a readable, coherent text that appears complete. This creates the perception that the mystery has been resolved, even though the reconstruction remains a carefully reasoned hypothesis. The ability to see a nearly complete sermon encourages engagement and curiosity. The mystery-solved narrative is reinforced by the dramatic contrast between what was lost and what has been recovered. For centuries, only fragments existed, leaving gaps in understanding. The AI reconstruction fills these gaps, making the sermon accessible and allowing readers to imagine the full context and content of the original work. This narrative also persists because of human fascination with history and the unknown. Lost texts evoke intrigue, and any method that brings them back into discussion generates excitement. The AI reconstruction meets this desire for discovery, offering scholars and audiences the chance to explore ideas that have remained hidden for centuries. Scholars acknowledge the limitations of this narrative. While the AI reconstruction provides insight, it is not a perfect recreation. Awareness of this ensures that the mystery-solved framing is tempered with critical thinking, balancing enthusiasm with scholarly responsibility. Ultimately, the persistence of this narrative reflects both curiosity and hope. People are drawn to the idea of connecting with the past and recovering lost wisdom. The AI reconstruction allows for engagement with historical material in a meaningful way, while reminding audiences that interpretation remains central to understanding. The AI reconstructed sermon has sparked widespread discussion by connecting history, technology, and faith, challenging scholars, engaging the public, and opening new ways to explore ancient thought. While it is a reconstruction and not definitive, it demonstrates AI's ability to illuminate lost texts and reveal possibilities hidden in historical fragments, raising important questions about ethics, interpretation, and authority, and highlighting that, although technology provides powerful tools, understanding and judgment remain firmly human endeavors. Do you think AI should be trusted to reconstruct ancient spiritual texts, or should these tools remain limited to research purposes? Share your thoughts in the comments below.